Hi everyone, welcome to the Attention to Detail Symphonies draft. Joined today by 5 of my good friends, clearly studious, being really studious preparing for this draft. We've been very excited about this for several weeks. Interestingly, we released an episode about a week ago previewing this draft, and since then we've gotten an enormous, there's been this viral explosion on social media of people ranking their symphonies 1 through 9, not using a composer again. Not gonna say that they stole our idea, I'm not sure. I have to give credit to Leo and Fabiola, who were the original creators of this idea too, but weird that suddenly that happened right after we announced that we were gonna do our draft. But we decided to up the stakes even more, and we've got not 1, but 5 people picking. We're gonna be taking symphonies off the board. So it's gonna be a challenge. It's not only pick your top 9 symphonies, it's gonna be pick your top 9 symphony teams with a bunch of people also trying to do the same things. So some things I'm gonna be looking out for in the draft as we go through. We've got 5 teams. There are only 4 symphonies from Brahms, Schumann, a couple other composers. There are only a few maybe real contender symphonies from other composers like Mendelssohn, plenty from Mahler. But there's going to be a few composers that are really scarce, and so people might try to go after those early. There's also some thinner spots, like the 6, 7, 8 spots on the team are going to be a little harder to find symphonies for, so people might go for those early. Let's go over the rules in case you didn't hear our intro podcast. Each team is going to be filling their rosters 1 through 9 with a symphony, 1 first symphony, 1 second symphony, 1 third, 1 through 9. You can't use a composer twice, and the only caveat is that in place of 1 symphony, 1 numbered symphony, you can use a non-numbered symphonic piece or a symphony above 9. So someone could use Debussy's La Mer or Mozart 41 instead of their 8th symphony spot. So we're going to be on the lookout for when people use those wild cards, when some composers go off the board. I'm curious to see if we get any real sleeper symphonies that none of us expected. Maybe we'll get an American symphony. Maybe we'll get a 21st century symphony. Who knows? So let's get it rolling. Let's find out. And with the first pick, I should introduce our players in order of how they're going to be drafting, which is going to be in a snake fantasy style format, 1 to 5, then back 5 to 1. We've got my brother, Josh Joyce, representing the Utah Classical Musics. That's his team name.
Just classical music, no S.
Huh?
Utah Classical Music.
Utah Classical Music, no S, my apologies. We've got CJ Collins, cellist, played with me in the Indianapolis Symphony, now is at orchestra, now at Bard. He is the Chicago Whoops, I Wore White Socks. Common occurrence in classical concert. Yeah. You forget to wear black and you wear white instead. We've got Fabiola Kim, incoming violin professor at the University of Michigan, has also played with the ISO many times. She is going to be the LA Einhelden Lakers, which is a play on Strauss's Einheldenleben. We'll see if that piece comes in on someone's wild card. Then we've got Leo Singer, my college roommate, recently awarded a DMA from the University of Michigan in cello performance. He is going to be the New York Yang Quixotes, flexing both his literary and musical skills, showing deep knowledge of Cervantes and Strauss's lesser known tone poems. Very impressive there. And then we've got Jake Fridkis, principal flute of my former orchestra that I work for, the Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra, one of the 2 flute bros of the well-known Instagram channel. He is going to be the Milwaukee BACHS. So I like the team names. And with that, I'm very excited to get started. Our first pick is going to be, we randomized the order, and Josh Joyce, my brother, drew the first pick. So Josh, what are you going with?
With the first pick in the attention to detail classical music draft. The Utah Classical Music selects Brahms Symphony Number 1.
Brahms 1. Okay, so Josh has taken a Brahms symphony. I imagine that those were going to be hot. CJ is on the clock. The first symphonies are some of the thinnest, I think. There's a big drop off after the first few, and so Josh is immediately grabbing a Brahms symphony right off the bat. So CJ is next up, the Chicago Whoops, I Wore White Sox. Curious to see where he goes. One of the interesting things about this first round is that it's really going to set the tone for most of the rest of the draft. So let's hear it. CJ, what are you going with?
I'm also taking a Brahms. I'm taking Brahms 2. Might as well take the best Brahms if I'm going to.
Brahms 2. Arguably the best Brahms symphony, which I have to agree with. So Brahms is going really quickly. And as I mentioned, Brahms only wrote 4 symphonies. So someone is going to miss out on a Brahms, and we'll have to see who that is. Doesn't mean that you're going to lose the draft. Other ways to build a team here. But next up, we have Fabiola Kim picking for the LA Einhelden Lakers.
Let's see. I think I'm going to have to go with Brahms 4.
Brahms' 4th Symphony. First 3 picks. My favorite composer, Brahms, showing his symphonic prowess here. And next we have Leo Robertson picking for the NY Yankee Hotes. Are you going with the last Brahms symphony? Got to do some deep analysis.
No, I have a very high draft grade on Brahms 4. That was an excellent pick. I have to praise that. An A+ on that. I'm gonna go Brahms 3.
Brahms 3.
Oh.
So Brahms is completely off the board, and just as a function of random choice, Jake, you're gonna have to build a team without a Brahms symphony. Does it hurt you especially that Brahms 4 with its massive flute solo got taken right off the bat?
That was painful. I'm going to take, with my first pick, Tchaikovsky's 6th Symphony.
Tchaik 6, I love it.
Very scarce Tchaikovsky good symphonies, and 4 and 5 hot numbers, so I had to go with Tchaik 6. And then for my second pick, I'm going to take, because I go again, right?
Go again.
All right, I'm going to take Dvorak 8.
Dvorak 8. So
got to get that flute solo.
And great strategy by Jake, targeting 2 of the weakest numbers in the draft. I knew Tchaik 6 was going to be high in demand. So we're coming back now to the New York Yankee Hotel. Leo on the board again.
Great. Can you all hear me?
We can all hear you.
Fantastic. I'm gonna go Mahler 1.
Mahler 1, targeting that high top tier in the first symphonies. We kind of feel like there's a big drop off after Brahms 1 and Mahler 1. So the other teams, the 3 teams who haven't taken a 1 yet are going to be, struggling to, or we'll see. Maybe they'll find excellent first symphonies. We'll find out. But we're back to the LA Einhelden Lakers. Fabs, what are you doing with the next pick?
I really, really wanted Tchaik 6, but I think I'm still going to tackle the 6th Symphony, so I will go with... I'll actually go with Dvorak 6.
Dvorak 6. Deep cut. That is actually a piece that I really like a lot, but some of our listeners might not be familiar with, so they're going to be encouraged to go listen to that right off the bat, taking that week 6 spot again. So we're back to CJ, second pick for CJ. So far, Brahms 2. What are you going with next?
I have a question. So for what was my Wi-Fi cut out? What was the 5th and 6th pick? Tchaik 6 and what else?
Tchaik 6 and Dvorak 8.
Ooh, okay.
So Tchaik 6, Dvorak 8 for the Milwaukee Box. Leo took Mahler 1. Fabiola took Dvorak 6.
Okay. I'm going to take Dvorak 7.
Dvorak 7. So we're seeing a lot of Dvorak and a lot of targeting of those late spots because, as we'll notice, a lot of composers, not all composers wrote 9 symphonies, and so it gets thinner in those later numbers. So we're back to the Utah classical music for 2 picks here.
Yeah, so with the first pick, I'm going to have to do some more analysis on my second pick, but I will pick Dvorak 9.
Okay, excellent symphony, New World Symphony from Dvorak 9. While you think about your next pick, I'm just looking at the teams through 2 rounds. We've seen all of the Brahms symphonies go. We've seen Dvorak 6 through 9 go already. So some really hot composers right off the bat. 1 Mahler symphony off the bat. No Beethoven yet. No Mendelssohn, no Schumann. So we'll get to those composers, I'm sure, at some point. What's your second pick?
I'm going to, excuse me, sorry.
No, you're good. What are you
With my third pick in this draft, I'm going to break open the Beethoven trend. I'm taking Beethoven 6.
Beethoven 6. Interesting choice. I'm going to ask you right now, Josh, are you taking that because it's your favorite Beethoven or because 6 is thin?
Favorite Beethoven, not quite, but second favorite, and 6 is very thin, so that's...
I like it. So good strategy, not necessarily just taking your favorite piece, but trying to do the best lineup. So we're back to Chicago Whoops I Wore White Sox, currently sitting with Brahms 2 and Dvorak 7.
I'm going to go with Schubert 9.
Schubert 9. The great symphony, once said by Schumann to have heavenly length, with which some other people might say is devastatingly long length, but I like it. DJ displaying his incredible attention span, taking 9th Symphony.
Heaven is eternal, just like Schumann.
All right, we're back for the third pick for the LA Eindhoven Lakers.
Okay, I think I'm going to go with Bruckner 8.
Bruckner 8. My personal favorite Bruckner symphony. Epic last movement. Epic coda to the last movement. Huge adagio movement, which some people love. The first Bruckner symphony off the board in one of those coveted eighth spots. So we are back to the NY Yankee Hotes. Mahler 1, Brahms 3. Good lineup so far. What are you going with? You're on mute. You're on mute. There we go.
I'm gonna go.
This is a tough spot. This is a very tough spot.
I'm gonna go Bruckner 9.
Bruckner 9, filling that 9th spot. Still, interestingly, no one has taken Beethoven's 9th.
Well, you've spoiled my pick now because I'm going Beethoven 9. 100%.
Ooh. Well, listen, I love the pick because I have to say, it's, I understand staying away from Beethoven, but you've taken arguably the best symphony ever composed there. So
The hard thing with Beethoven is all of them are good, so you can kind of save it for the end, but the 9th symphonies are pretty thin, so I wanted that one. With my next pick, I'm going to take Mahler 5.
Mahler 5, another probably top 5 symphony ever composed. Great pick. So we're coming back to the New York Yankee Hotes just to assess the board at the moment. The New York Yankee Hotes are the only team without a Dvorak. Unfortunately, all of the the good Dvorak's, we might say, have been taken. We've also only got one Beethoven off. We've only got one Bruckner off. We've still got no Schumanns, no Mendelssohns, no Sibelius. So a lot of good stuff still out there. Leo, you've got Mahler 1, Brahms 3, Bruckner 9. What's next?
Beethoven 7.
Beethoven 7. Little run on Beethoven symphonies here. Another incredible symphony. We're starting to see some teams target some really good pieces. Leo clearly happy with that pick, that Beethoven. Ended the slide of Beethoven 7 right there, an Aaron Rodgers-esque slide for Beethoven 7 all the way to the 4th round. We've got Fabiola up next for your 4th pick.
I think I will go with Mahler 9.
Mahler 9. So that fills out the 9th symphony slot, taking one of the best pieces ever composed. Again, we're hitting all of the highlights here. CJ is up next. We've got Brahms 2, Dvorak 7, Schubert 9. Another Beethoven spot open here, but also a lot of different directions that you could go with this pick. So we've got CJ up next. Chicago Whoops, I Wore White Sox. On mute.
I'm going to go with Mendelssohn 3.
Mendelssohn 3. My debut piece with the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra, for which CJ...
I took it just for you.
Did you play that concert? No.
No, I did not.
No, that's good. It wasn't the best concert I've ever had, but that's okay. Do love that piece. So we're back. I love that pick. We're back to Josh, first Mendelssohn off the board, and we've got the Utah Classical Music with 2 picks here. You're on mute, so be sure to unmute yourself. Just looking at the team. No Mahler yet.
Yep, I'm in heavy thought here.
Couple teams. It's Josh and CJ don't have Mahlers yet. Interesting strategy can come into play here at some point, that if every other team has taken a composer and it's just you left, you can wait until the last round to grab that composer because no one else can legally take it. So maybe CJ and Josh in a race to the bottom for the Mahlers here because they don't have to jump on those as quickly, but we'll see. What are you going to do with these picks, Josh?
Yeah, so I believe for my first pick, I'm going to be taking Schubert's 8th Symphony, the Unfinished Symphony.
Schubert Unfinished for the 8th Symphony. I love it. Although it only has 2 movements, it makes up for its lack of length, should we say, with some other incredibly impressive attributes. So a short but excellent symphony. And your second pick, Josh, you've now filled 6, 8, and 9 along with 1. What are you going with for the second pick?
I'm going to be filling out the 6 through 9 spot. I think I'm going to be going with Bruckner's 7th Symphony.
Bruckner's 7th Symphony. Excellent piece. The piece highlighted in the Celibidache documentary with the Berlin Phil, where you can see one of the worst orchestral rehearsals in the history of classical music, which I highly recommend people go check out. Bruckner 7 with Celibidache. If you want to listen to a Bruckner symphony and have it take about 30 more minutes than any other recording, just check out a Celibidache recording. So we are back to CJ, Chicago Whoops, I Wore White Sox, in this mini race with Josh for who's gonna be the last one to take a Mahler symphony. Still a lot of slots to be filled here. 1, 4, 5, 6, 8. No wild cards have been used yet. No wild cards, and there are some pretty good ones out there. So we'll see if anyone uses a wild card upcoming here in the next couple of rounds. So CJ, you're up whenever you are ready. 1, 4, 5, 6, 8. I'm just looking here too. We've got CJ is the only one to take a Mendelssohn. Still no Schumanns. Still no real offbeat symphonies. A lot of standards. No 21st century yet. No no late 20th century yet. No Baroque. I don't know how Baroque would get in there necessarily, but all right, CJ.
I'm gonna go with Nielsen 4.
Nielsen 4, the pick of the draft as far as I'm concerned. One of my all-time favorite symphonies. Absolutely support that pick. Partly because we just did an episode about it on attention to detail. So I love the, party dedication there from CJ's team. So we are now back to Fabiola. Also has done a good job filling out those late spots. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 are open, and those are some pretty strong, deep categories. So, Fabiola, you're up. Is this a time? Still hasn't used a Beethoven, still hasn't used a Schumann. What are you going with?
I will go with Schumann 3.
Schumann 3. As far as I'm concerned, a fantastic pick. One of the best symphonies by Schumann, one of the best symphonies out there, I think. Fantastic fourth movement of a 5-movement, oddly 5-movement symphony. So, New York Yankee Hotes, thin roster so far from the New York Yankee Hotes, clearly lagging behind the other teams as of now. Struggling to keep their head above water, trying as best as they can to get back in this draft late. They've done some deep analysis. What are you going with here?
Shostakovich 8th Symphony.
Shostakovich 8th Symphony. Interesting piece. Devilishly tricky scherzo 3rd movement. Long 1st movement, but a really, really good symphony. I like that pick, filling out those late rounds. We're now to the Milwaukee Bachs. A real absolute star-studded lineup so far for the Milwaukee Bachs. If they can keep it up and continue to fill out this lineup, this is going to be a deep team, tough to beat. 2 picks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 still open.
So I guess for me, I just don't really like any of my 7 symphony options. So it's tough, because I already picked a Mahler, and Beethoven 7 was my favorite, but I went with Beethoven 9 over that by a very, very slight grade. So I'm going to go for a 4th symphony. I'm going to take Mendelssohn 4.
Mendelssohn 4, another great piece, the Italian symphony. Super hard for the orchestra to play. Maybe needs some triple tonguing. Do you triple tongue the opening?
No, I single tongue it.
See, that's the real legit type of playing, is when you can just single tongue the opening.
Gotta single tongue it. And then for my next pick, I'm going to take Saint-Saëns' 3rd Symphony.
Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony. I also like that pick because that is our most recent episode on attention to detail. So I'm really appreciating our drafters hitting all of the symphonies.
I knew that, of course.
A great final movement. That's the Organ Symphony that features, of course, an organ. Like you said, 7, a little thin at this point, but I like the look of the Milwaukee Bachs right now. If you slot a wild card into the 7 or the 1, that's going to be a deep, deep lineup. So we are back to the New York Yankee Hotes. Some good spots left. 2, 4, 5. There are a lot of good 5th symphonies still out there, although Leo has already used a Beethoven. A lot of good 4ths, a lot of good 2nds. I should note no Sibelius off the board yet. It's a little surprising to me. Some other really good symphonies still out there to be gotten. So Leo, what are you going with here? 2, 4, 5, 6 still open. Deep in thought. Got on mute also when you make a pick. What's the thought process?
Well, I need hard.
No 2s have been filled yet, I'm noting. The full array of 2s is out there, but that is a deep, deep category.
Brahms 2 has been filled.
Oh, Brahms 2 has been filled. You're right. Other than Brahms 2, which might be, unfortunately, I'm just looking at this. Wow. I'm just noticing now the Utah Classical Music can take Mahler 2 with their last pick. That is going to be a solid last pick. Mahler 2, one of the best symphonies of all time. Didn't notice that until now. Well played by the Utah Classical Music. We've got Leo up. What are you going with?
Pick Schumann 2.
Schumann 2, maybe my single favorite symphony ever composed. I think one of the most underrated pieces in the history of classical music. Love that pick by the New York Yankee Hotes.
I draft grade.
High draft grade. I like it. That piece has a high motor, as they say. It's twitchy. Okay. Fabiola, huh?
Great pad level. Great pad
level from Schumann 2. Exactly. We've been, as you can tell, we've been watching a lot of day 3 of the NFL draft here. All right. So next we've got the LA Eindhoven Lakers. We've got 1, 2, 5, and 7 still open. Where are you going with this one?
Beethoven 5.
Beethoven 5. What many might say is the best symphony ever composed. We've still, I'm impressed, in these late rounds, we've still got a lot of incredibly good pieces going off the board. So Beethoven 5 is taken. Now we're in a scenario where the Chicago Whoops-I-Wore White Sox, who are up, are the only team without a Beethoven. So the Chicago Whoops-I-Wore White Sox can wait until the last round to take a Beethoven. That is a good spot to be in. CJ has his pick of Beethoven symphonies if he wants them, and he can wait till that last round to fill a tough spot. Although 6 is off the board, 5 is off the board. So I'm looking at it now. Unfortunately, the only Beethoven CJ is left with are 1 and 8, which are a little bit less good than some of the others. So a good and bad situation to find yourself in. What are you going to do here with this pick?
I'm going to go with Shostakovich 5.
Shostakovich 5. A little run on Fifth Symphonies here, but as we mentioned, these are some of the best pieces ever composed. So we've got some highlights, absolute highlights coming off the board right here. Shosti 5, some people's favorite 20th century symphony. All right, so we come to the Utah Classical Music, who are sitting on Mahler 2. Doesn't have to be taken until the last pick. So I'm assuming you're going with that as your last pick. So that means 3, 4, and 5 are still open, and you've got 2 picks. Is this a potential place for a wild card? We still have not seen any wild cards go yet. So Josh,
we will not be using a wild card on this pick. Shosti 5 was going to be my pick, but I will be going with Sibelius 5. I think that's one of the few Sibelius symphonies that I won't sleep through. So.
Wow. An endorsement from the Utah Classical Music.
Yes. I am known to sleep through long, slow pieces sometimes, but
that one is not long or slow.
So it works well.
So there you go. Checks all of the boxes.
Yes.
For Utah Classical Music. And one more pick.
Yes. Then this is the one that's gonna take a little bit more analysis.
Okay, well, let's look. While you analyze, we're just going to take a quick stock of what's going on with 3 rounds to go. So, Josh, Utah Classical Music has 2, 3, 4. Mahler 2 is still out there. CJ has the Beethoven available, but unfortunately, it's only 1 or 8. Fabiola has 2, 7, and 1. 2 is very deep, so that shouldn't be too tough. 7, a few 7s have already gone. That might be a potential wild card spot, or the 1. And so this is where people are going to have to get creative, potentially find a 1st or 7th symphony that's a hidden gem. Yankee Hotes are going to probably struggle to find a 6th at this point, although there are a couple still out there. 4 and 5 are deeper, so that's a decently good spot to be in. Milwaukee Bachs have the star-studded lineup. 1 and 7, same situation as the Eindhoven Lakers. 2 is deep, 1 and 7 is going to be a little thinner probably at this point, but everyone still has the wild card available. So I'm curious to see The wild card is star-studded, but there are some great pieces that everyone's going to want, so I'm curious to see if people go after those. So Utah Classical Music, second pick. What are you going with?
I believe that I'm going to be taking Schumann's Fourth Symphony.
Schumann's Fourth Symphony. I like it. A shorter piece, not necessarily super well known, but I actually think a great piece. Really fun to listen to. Beautiful cello solo in the second movement, snagging that from Leo Singer over there. And CJ, no opportunity for the cellists to get in on that one. So we are back to Chicago. Whoops, I wore White Sox. Still has the Beethoven in the pocket. We'll see if you're going to go with that. 1, 6, and 8 still to fill. What are you going with here? Tricky spot. 6 is in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I basically have my Mahler and Beethoven kind of locked in at this point.
Oh, I didn't notice that you have Mahler available too.
Yeah, I'm looking at my wild cards.
Yeah, wow. So Mahler is available and Beethoven is available. So you fell into both of those, although both of those have been run on. And so Mahler 6.
Yeah, there's still Mahler 6 and then Beethoven 8 or 1.
Interesting. Yeah, I like Mahler 6. I think that's a good.
I'm going to go with Debussy La Mer.
I like that as the first symphonic wild card off the board. I think that's an excellent one. And where are you putting that? In the 1 slot?
Yeah, I'll put that in the 1.
Okay. Debussy La Mer, first wild card off the board. Received an 100 pre-draft grade from myself. An absolute masterpiece. All right, Fabiola, 1, 2, and 7 still to be filled. Haven't used the wild card yet. Have used Beethoven, Mahler, DVORAK. Some possibilities at the 2 spot. Some hidden gems at the 1 spot potentially. Thin at the 7 spot. What are you going with?
I think I'm going to go with Rachmaninoff 2.
Rachmaninoff 2. Excellent piece.
No.
Another long one, occasionally shortened. Were you trying to take that coming up? Milwaukee Box?
Oh, I've been waiting on that one.
That is a stellar symphony, occasionally cut because it is very long.
It's a high upside pick, you know? It just
That
really
is a
depends
high-
on the performance.
That is a high upside pick depending on the performance, depending on the tempo. If we've got a good orchestra playing. I
Low
like-
floor.
Huh?
Low floor, high ceiling.
Low floor, high ceiling, exactly. So, New York Yankee Jotes, 4 through 6, still available. Let's look at the Yankee Jotes here. Mahler.
If I'm correct, I believe I have a free run at 4 and a free run at 5. All best availables.
Free run at 4, free run at 5. Those are filled on every other team.
So I will take the Rite of Spring as my 6.
Rite of Spring 6, the second wild card off the board. We're starting to see some of these free runs come available. CJ's still got the Mahler and the Beethoven. Rite of Spring, interesting wild card for the second pick. One of an undisputed masterpiece, early 20th century, caused a riot when it was first performed. Now we're to the Milwaukee Box. 1, 2, and 7 still left to be filled. Rachmaninoff 2 just got snagged. So a couple other directions you could go here.
That was a tough one. I'm going to go with Sibelius 2.
Sibelius 2. Great Sibelius symphony. Often thought of as a sort of anthem for Finnish national independence. Triumphant ending. Some good flute parts. And then you're getting another snaking pick here, 1 or 7, and this is where it gets.
So with this pick, I might get eliminated. I'm going to pick Berlioz 1.
Berlioz 1. This is the first stump the truck, as they say. I don't think I know Berlioz 1 at all. Does Berlioz have more than one numbered symphony?
No, he has no numbered symphonies, but his first symphony was Symphonie Fantastique.
Oh, see, now we're gonna have to discuss if this is allowed. See, I was thinking of Symphonie Fantastique as a wild card pick.
Okay, fine. It was worth a shot. I won't push it, but it was worth a shot.
I like the idea. We were thinking that like Franck Symphony in B would also be a non-numbered.
Yeah,
I like
their Alpine Symphony. That's another one.
Alpine Symphony, yeah. So let's call Symphonie Fantastique a wild card.
Okay, fair enough. It was worth a shot. All right. Anyway, I guess with my one options then, yikes. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Prokofiev 1 just because it's really hard.
Prokofiev 1, the classical symphony. Honestly, not a really bad choice in the 8th round. It's a really good piece. Like you said, super hard to play. If orchestras can actually, that's another low floor, high ceiling. If it's a high school orchestra performance of Prokofiev 1, it's going to be a little rough.
Might be great.
Could be great. Depends on the high school. Could be my high school, Pioneer High School, winner of several Grammy Awards. That's not a joke. That's not a joke. The orchestra program at Pioneer High School has been awarded several Grammy Awards, of which Josh is also a graduate, starred in the band program. So we are back to the New York Yankee Hotes. And as you mentioned, free run on 4 and 5 best available.
I can also attest that you did, in fact, wear white socks in the photograph when you won the Grammy, and I've seen that photo as your college roommate. So nice work, Chicago.
Yeah, wore the white socks. That was in the paper.
Forgot your bow tie.
Forgot my bow tie. Front page of the paper. That was the only time. I don't mean to. Yeah, that was the only time that I heard. I'm not even going to say who it was, but there was a lot of swearing that happened right before I went on stage for that concert because high school junior or whatever forgot my bow tie right before I was about to walk on stage. Everyone noticed. They were like, "What are you doing?" Went out there, picture, front page of the paper, forgot the bow tie. Classic. You know, what can you do? Anyways, 4th and 5th, free run on both of these, just best available choice. So this is entirely based on what you think is the best available symphony left for you here. What are you going with?
So it's hard because I have a higher draft grade on Tchaik 5 than Tchaik 4, but I think 4 is less deep.
Yeah. So you have to weigh, it's an interesting, I agree with you. Higher grade on Tchaik 5 than Tchaik 4 personally, but what are you going to go with?
I think I'm going to leave my last pick to be the 5th, so I'm going to go Tchaik 4.
Tchaik 4. A crowd pleaser for sure. May win you some of the fan vote. I like selling out a little bit, compromising your own musical integrity for the sake of winning some fan vote. I like it. We are back to the LA Eindhoven Lakers. 1 and 7 left, thin categories, but wild cards still available.
So I'm not too sure about this, but I'm gonna do it just because it's my favorite Sibelius. I'm gonna go with Sibelius 7.
Sibelius 7 hasn't been taken yet. Considered by many people to be the best Sibelius symphony. So to grab that this late, I think is excellent. That one is a little bit, for me, a matter of taste of the listener. I've never personally understood it. A lot of people say it's their single favorite Sibelius. So that's an excellent choice to get that this late, filling the 7th spot, only the wild card left. So CJ is left with 6 and 8, and if I'm not mistaken, you've pretty much fallen into these picks. What are you going with?
Yeah, so I have Mahler and Beethoven left, so I'm gonna do Mahler 6.
Mahler 6, Tragic Symphony, one of my all-time favorite Mahler symphonies, to be honest. Used to hate it, now I love it. 4th movement is a little hard to understand, but also has 3 epic hammer blows, so definitely a visual element of excitement to Mahler's Sixth Symphony, even if it's a little too long, and like some people on this current podcast have fallen asleep due to the length, the hammer blows will definitely wake you up. So now, snaking back, the Utah Classical Music has 2 picks in a row to close out the team. Wild card still available and fell into Mahler too. So Josh, what are you going with?
So I have a question about the wild card. I was wondering if pictures at an exhibition would qualify.
I think that definitely qualifies.
Okay. Then in my 3 spot, I will be taking pictures at an exhibition.
Pictures at an exhibition. Can you tell me the orchestrator that you're going with? Because I'm curious, because Ravel is the most common, but the Fort Worth Symphony with Jake Fridriss, principal flute, Jacob Joyce, assistant associate recording engineer, recorded Leo Singer, substitute cellist in the cello section, has recorded the Gorchakov orchestration of
The
pictures.
only real orchestration, the Gorchakov.
I'm guessing you're going with the Ravel.
That's a really
I couldn't tell you if I've heard the Gorchakov orchestration, so I'll go with Ravel. How about?
Now you know where to get it, though. So
You know where to get it. Fort Worth Symphony, the only orchestra to have recorded the Gorchakov orchestration. And the last pick.
And with my last pick, my favorite symphony of all time, greatest ending of all time, in my opinion, Mahler's Second Symphony, The Resurrection.
Gotta say, to get that in the last round, pretty incredible. Well done. Way to strategize the draft. Impressive. Chicago, whoops, I wore White Sox, left with the 8th spot. What are you going with here?
Yeah, Beethoven 8 for this one.
Beethoven 8, recently recorded by the musicians of the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra remotely in what I thought was a decently successful video highlighting the metronome-esque second movement. Little shout out to the ISO there. So we've got LA Eindhoven Lakers, first symphony left, but haven't used your wild card, in a good spot here. So
I think for my team name and for that violin solo, I'm gonna have to go with Heldenleben.
Ein Heldenleben, A Hero's Life, epic piece by Strauss, one of the hardest concertmaster solos, of which Fabiola is a fantastic concertmaster who has played with the ISO and other orchestras many times. Super hard to conduct, especially if the violinist goes off the rails and decides to do something that they want to do completely out of the ordinary.
Which we never do.
Which they never ever do. In fact, in conducting school, we had to practice accompanying many different recordings of Ein Heldenleben concertmaster solos because it's so tricky. But an excellent tone poem by Strauss. We're on to the New York Yankee Jotes. 5 spot, best available, already used the wild card, but there's probably some depth here still at 5 to be taken.
Right. Well, you know, I had a really high grade on Nielsen 4.
Yeah.
Which was a great pick from CJ. Loved that. I had a very high A- on that.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, it's tough to. I love Nielsen symphonies. I think I'm going to go Nielsen 5.
Nielsen 5, a piece that I personally have discovered over the course of this quarantine, along with many other more niche symphonies. Excellent, excellent symphony. I like that what would normally be considered a deep cut, actually a really good piece that I'm going to recommend all of our listeners go check out.
Also, I'd also just like to say one quick thing.
Sure.
Like most of us in this draft play music professionally.
Yeah.
And Josh, I just have to give a special shout out to you. The draft that you just had to know these symphonies is really incredible. And to all the listeners of this podcast that might not be as experienced, you can have so much fun learning these pieces, and you don't have to be nerds like us and do this with your friends.
Yeah.
But you learn so many pieces and learn and really appreciate a lot. So real big shout out to you, Josh. Great job.
Thank you. I learned them all from my brother, and the listeners of this podcast can also learn them all from my brother. So you'll have the same teacher.
The guy, like you said, the guy has an encyclopedic knowledge of many things, including symphonies. So very impressive. We've got the Milwaukee Bachs, who still have their wild card. Tried
Well,
for Brilliant Symphony Fantastique.
I also learned something from Jacob tonight. I've played Heldenleben a lot of times and seen it many times, and I've never thought during the violin solo, wow, that must be so hard for the conductor.
Okay. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. The good conductors, it's really hard. The thing that makes it so hard is that you don't want to take any of the spotlight. You want to get it right, let them do it their way. That's a little insider tip that, yes, it is always all about the conductor. I hate to say it.
Saved it well. I mean, I'm a flute player, so I got to go with Daphnis and Chloe. That's my pick for my wild card. Suite number 2.
Daphnis and Chloe, Suite number 2 features a massive flute solo by Ravel and an incredibly hard but exciting last movement, the Dance General, which will forever be branded in my mind because I had a clarinetist roommate who would practice that at 7 a.m. every day. So with that, we'll close it out. I want to go through quickly and let's just look. We can go in order of draft, and I just want to hear everybody's reflections a little bit on their team, what they like, what they don't like, how the draft was, and just talk a little bit about if there's a couple pieces on your list, why you chose them, or this is your opportunity to lobby a little bit for the fan vote. So we'll start with Josh. How did you feel the draft went? Take us through your lineup.
Getting the first pick, I thought that Brahms was absolutely going to be one of those symphonies was going to be my first pick because they're in short supply, as we saw. And Brahms 1 was my pick there because, there's very few first symphonies that are good. So I decided Brahms 1, it's the best. Cannot believe that Mahler 2 fell into my lap. That was incredible. That's my favorite symphony. I wanted to save Mahler, and I was lucky, very, very lucky to land that. Pictures at an Exhibition, one of my favorite pieces, great ending. Schumann 4, Sibelius 5, I'm not super familiar with, but I do know that they're very good symphonies.
They have to be good pieces. So
and looking through 6 through 9, I know all those pieces. I like them all. I think my team has a very good shot to win the fan vote here. I'm very happy with the team I put together. Pulled a little bit of a Belichick out here,
Yeah.
Got some guys who were good in the late rounds, so that was the key.
Impressive. It's almost like you traded down just over and over.
Indeed. Wish the Lions had done that.
That's the equivalent of getting Tom Brady in the 7th round, Mahler 2 as your last pick. All right, CJ, let's look through your lineup. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking back, I had a similar strategy. Get a Brahms first because there were only 4, and then just leave my wild card, Mahler and Beethoven, for last because there's really not a bad Mahler symphony. I think looking back, I didn't get all as good of Beethoven or Mahler as I would like, but doing that strategy, but could be worse. I mean, I think I boxed myself in a little bit when I took Mendelssohn 3 because no one ended up taking Beethoven 3, and I couldn't take that by the end.
Interesting, yeah. Although,
but I mean, I don't think I have anything too weak.
No, the result of waiting on those composers is a very deep team, so that's impressive.
Yeah.
And you got arguably the best wild card. It's very debatable. They're all good, but La Mer is a great piece.
Yeah.
Right. LA Eindhoven Lakers, you matched your team name with your wild card. Take us a little bit through your lineup.
I'm very happy that I got Beethoven 5, Mahler 9, Bruckner 8.
Those are big time symphonies.
So my first pick, it was either going to be a Brahms symphony or actually Tchaik 6, since there weren't a lot of 6 symphonies. But I think I'm very happy that I took the Brahms. DVORAK 6, I am not entirely sure about, but I think because I took DVORAK 6, I took Mahler 9.
Right.
That I'm happy about. And Like Sibelius 7, I actually really was hoping that I'd get it because
Yeah,
it's
that one fell. That was a good choice.
my favorite, and the Rachmaninoff second also. So overall, I think I'm very happy.
Strong team, very strong team as well. Yankee Hotes.
Yeah, I mean, I basically went strictly analytics in this draft.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really, I mean, I just objectively took the best available at every position.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. That's a good strategy.
But in all seriousness, I was happy to get in the top 4 picks just because I knew I wanted a Brahms, like everyone's saying. I praise Mr. Jake Friedrichs for his ability to hold firm without the Brahms Symphony. I think that's great. Where I thought I would get, I love Nielsen 5, but I had it as a lower grade than the rest of the 5s, and I put 5 as the deepest number. So I thought that Josh would have taken Tchaikovsky's 5th there instead of Sibelius 5.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I thought I would end with Sibelius 5 there, which is one of my all-time favorites. And then I couldn't really end up with that, which was my sort of disappointment, but I love my team. I think I got a great first symphony, which was a high priority. And Beethoven 7 wins above replacement 7th symphonies. I had that as the highest grade. So that was
that's a good wins above replacement play right there, Beethoven 7.
Thanks for organizing this, Jake. Really appreciate it.
Jake, maybe save the best for last. What do you think about your Milwaukee Bachs team?
I mean, I'm pretty happy considering I didn't get a Brahms symphony as the last pick. They're all gone. I did mostly based on positional scarcity, as they say. Just kind of, I thought that Tchaikovsky, only 3 real options. 6 symphonies are pretty weak, and as I've learned from being a professional classical musician, you just program Tchaik 6 as much as possible and people will come. So I thought that was actually my number 1 overall pick, so I was really happy to get that. And Dvorak 8 and Beethoven 9 were in my top 5, so I was very happy. And I kind of overreached for Mahler 5, but I just, at that point, I was like, I've got Beethoven 9, Mahler 5, Tchaik 6, like it's just icons. So I just wanted to load up on the star power.
Interestingly, your lineup 5 through 9 is like all blockbusters.
I wish that I had got Rachmaninoff 2 just because I love that piece, but also then I could have taken Sibelius 1, which would have been something that I would have been happy with. So my 2 and 1 were a little bit of a sacrifice, but I was very happy with getting the organ symphony because I think that's another epic, and Mendelssohn 4 to me is another icon. So I was very happy.
I'm just looking through this now, and interestingly, just the way the draft played out, my highest graded personally 3rd symphony, Beethoven 3, no one took the Eroica. I find that interesting. No one took Mahler 4, my 2nd, but this is because of the circumstances of the draft. All of the 8, 9, 7, 6s went, but I'm very surprised. I think people will see no Beethoven 3 and say, what are these people doing? But actually, that's the way the draft played out. Really interesting developments. So I want to thank all of you guys so much for joining us, and just as a kind of part of the reason why we did this was just the interesting thought experiment. It's a fun game for us to play, but also I'm very curious to know what our fans, our listeners think of the teams, and we want to use this primarily as an encouragement for people to go and listen to some of these pieces, especially if we hit a piece that you might not know super well. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a way in the episode notes for everyone to vote on which teams they like or submit their own lineup of best 1 through 9. Obviously, that's a different exercise than what we did here. But mainly, I just want to encourage people to go listen to some of these pieces. Hopefully, they enjoyed this alongside the NFL draft in an otherwise kind of dearth here of content during the quarantine. So thank you to everyone so much for joining us. And thanks to our listeners for staying with us. We'll see you soon.